The Team Never Quit podcast is sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. Whether you're an active duty service member, veteran, DoD civilian, or military family member, you can join Navy Federal. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. Excited to be back. What up, guys?
Hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be busy.
Is that a new vest?
It is a new vest. Do you like it or no?
He has a vest on. You see that?
It's not a sweater vest, at least. I like it. I'm gonna keep rocking it.
It
All
goes
right.
good with that plaid, though.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was wearing the same thing. I think last time we filmed, we probably took it from me. Anyway.
Yeah, I like your style. So
Like your moves.
Like your moves.
like your moves. Hey, we got a Patreon question of the day coming from Ashley. Who is your favorite A-Team character and why?
Oh, Murdoch. He just had it. I mean, just absolutely amazing at what he does. Was just comfortable in his skin and just flex left or right. Just was a nut. He always kept my attention. Everybody's gonna say B.A. Baracus, but that doesn't count.
Yes, it does. Mr. TBA Brackets, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And, both of them. They did a good job. If you went, I was going to go with BA till you said that. You got to go, man. I
It's
go
like
with
the
him.
Jesus
He doesn't like to fly. You know, hard dude on the edge all the time. Plus, I'm a big Mr. T fan, dude, growing up. And that's, well, that was the thing. Yeah, that was the first guy that popped into my head when you said 18. I mean, you got Murdoch face.
Hannibal.
BA, Hannibal. So they're all good.
What you got?
I'd have to say BA.
BA.
I think it's everybody. You think A-Team, that's the first person you think
That's
of, right?
Van.
So,
Who's the
right.
van?
Yeah, the paint version of like Starsky and Hutch that was on the van.
You say A-Team, the only thing I think of is that van just flying
Yeah.
in the air, you know, like jumping over.
Who didn't want to jump? Thank you, right? Back then, man, the shows were, it wasn't so CGI or so sci-fi that what they were doing, you're like, oh, I'll get that done one day.
Right.
And nowadays, it's so crazy. You watch on TV, you're like, I can't keep up with that.
Yeah, he jumped in a Econoline van
Right?
with 8-inch rims.
And pulled it up, right? Probably some boom in the back.
There
How about
go.
you?
Ashley.
How about you?
You know what? I've never seen it.
Come on.
Yep, I know. Get on to me. Add to the list.
Oh, there's a list.
There's a list.
Have you seen the new
evolving list.
18?
I think so.
What is
You
that
think
first?
so?
I'm pretty sure. Listen, here's the
Yeah.
deal.
Pretty sure.
I've seen a lot of movies, but I'm not one of
Really?
those
Because
people
every
that
time we name one, you hadn't seen it.
I'm not good at
Maybe one
memorizing
day we'll
movie
get to a
lines.
movie you have seen.
The Mask.
Which one?
Which one?
Jim Carrey.
Okay.
All right, that's the only
Is there
movie.
another Mask?
That's the only movie.
Oh yeah, it had Sharon and Sam
Yeah,
Elliott.
sure. Yep. Okay. Right.
I
Mask.
forget,
Right.
I
Yeah.
forget
Yeah.
the kid's name that played
Oh,
the.
Rodney Dennis.
Stokes.
Right. Rocky Dennis.
Yeah, that was the kid's name, right?
That was
Yeah.
his name in
That
the
was Eric
movie.
Stoltz, dude.
Good pull.
Eric Stoltz.
Was
yeah.
it?
Right? Played him.
Yeah, he played Eric
That's what
Stoltz.
I
Yeah.
thought,
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ashley, thanks for the question. Thanks for putting me on the line there.
You fell off again.
Fell
Another
off.
failure in
Fell.
the. We need a whiteboard up here with
Every time I fail,
Andrew fails, and just put a check mark in the.
No, like a movie that you need to watch, and when you watch it, we'll
we'll check it off.
give you a check.
Give me
Maybe
a gold
sticker
star
by your name,
Yeah,
something
please.
like that.
I need stickers.
Gold star.
There will be no demerits in this classroom. PE every day.
Everybody's a winner.
Hey, if you want to ask a Patreon question, join us patreon.com/Team Never Quit. You get exclusive access to the show, some cool merch. We even put your credits on YouTube, which is kind of cool. You help us produce this show. You all right over there?
That was. Have you hit that
you
one
hit
yet?
it? Are you snorting candles?
God.
Was it?
He almost died smelling it, and you just stuck it to your nose.
Right,
were
no
twins.
problem.
They smell this.
Oh,
yeah,
dude,
check it out.
this will fuck you up, man. Hit it. God almighty, that's
Oh my gosh.
powerful.
Be perfectly clear that that's a candle.
Woo! Yeah, it is candles. Half melted. You want to know a twin thing? You want to hear
Yeah,
an
bring it.
eerie twin thing? This happened to us this morning. I'm driving from my house over to here, and I called Dan Crenshaw to check in to see how everything's going. And as he's like, "Hey, what's up, bro?" He's like, "Hang on, your brother's calling." And he was calling at the exact same time, standing at his house, and he
Same
merged,
call.
Same call. He merged the calls. We all three
That's
chatted up, and
hilarious.
he's like, Marcus was like, "Yeah, it was like ESP."
Same time.
Same time, man.
Walking down the backyard, like, oh, Crenshaw. I called him up.
Felt it.
See how you doing.
That's funny. All right, guys, we got a great guest in store. Sam Bonilla, police officer, 34 years of experience, program coordinator for the Suburban Law Enforcement Academy, an attorney with 16 years of experience, Master Firearms Instructor, U.S Marine during the Gulf War, Sam uses his law enforcement and attorney experience to teach recruits discipline, self-sacrifice, as well as many other skills. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you.
Have you ever read The Alchemist?
Yes.
That's you.
Years ago. Yeah.
That's you, bro. That's impressive. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
That you
Appreciate it.
continue to serve. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
We got a file on you and everything.
But you came in.
Jeez.
You came in. Yeah. It says classified on it, too.
It even
I saw that.
So
Yeah.
last time you
Right.
had something with your name on it, said classified.
Right.
Hopefully
I'd
that-
never seen it.
You're
I
in
think the
trouble.
printer might have been running
So
out
I'm
of
sure
toner
somebody
for
have seen
some
it, but I
reason.
haven't.
Read it, but,
you from Chicago, right? You're from Chicago?
Suburbs.
Suburb?
Chicago, yeah.
Is it snowing?
Mhm.
It doesn't snow here.
It was snowing.
Did y'all have
It
a white
was-
Christmas?
It was a white Christmas.
Oh, cool.
We don't know what that is.
It was nasty.
We have a.
We had
What
one
do we have?
2 years ago.
It's only
A
pretty
white
on
Christmas
Christmas.
here?
After that, it's not good.
We laid down Christmas Eve. Kids sat down and say their prayers, and we'd like it to snow. We woke up next morning and it was snowing here on the ground.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember that.
it was in. Was
That
that
might have been
15?
That might have
Yeah,
been
'cause it was the
well,
year
that
we were
wasn't
in-
last
we went to
year. It was
Nashville.
2021.
Well, am I bringing up old stuff? Is that what you're saying?
You know about when we were kids? When we were
no,
kids?
here. It's 2015. I was living here. I have a
He said
video of
2
it.
years ago, didn't he? I said a few years ago.
Too few.
Whatever.
Sam.
Couple, more than 6.
Harvard's on the phone. They called again, man. They want
I
that
got my
degree
jacket
back.
right here. I'm wearing my Harvard jacket.
Are you?
Yeah, it's right here.
That's just.
Sam, why don't you take us back? How did you get your start in law enforcement?
Yeah, go
Okay.
back further than that. I mean,
Okay.
let's start from the beginning.
Where did it start?
Okay. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. That's where I grew up.
Yeah, Brooklyn and Chicago people they don't like each other, do they?
No, I think it's fine. I never heard anything like that.
That's very.
I've never heard
We
that
give each
either.
other crap, but that's it.
You
Over
say-
the food.
The food.
We say Houston.
Say what?
There's a street in Manhattan. It's Houston. Spelled Houston, but it's Houston Street.
That is
We were-
absolutely correct.
Ha ha! I know where that is. We were driving, and the GPS said Houston Street, and
Mhm.
my buddy was like, "What the fuck that sound just said?"
Yeah.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
Spelled
It's
Houston.
exactly the same, Houston. It's capitalized too.
When
I remember.
how old were you when you left New York?
So we left the city in Brooklyn and we moved out to Long Island when I was 12. So I sort of had my high school years out in Long Island.
What was it like growing up in
Um,
Brooklyn? Because down here, and where we come from, Brooklyn's like, it's like the toughest place on the planet. You look like a tough guy, so it's obviously true.
I am a
statement.
tough guy.
I
Yeah,
believe
but
that.
There are some myths that roll down from up there.
But yeah,
Down here, when you hear the certain boroughs, you're like, oh, okay, probably a tough guy.
right. They so the thing is you don't realize how bad an environment is when you grow up in that environment. You
Sure.
know, until you look back or you meet other people that say, "Oh my God, you're from here." You know, so even the school that I went to in Long Island, I thought was normal, but when I told people like the high school that I went to, everybody was like, "You went to that high school? That was pretty bad." And I was like, "I didn't think it was that bad when I was there. It was fine." So I think it's just the environment that you grew up in that you're used to. You don't really realize it till somebody else mentions it, or until you go back and go, "Holy shit, I grew up here." You know. So
Yeah, I guess it's only a
Uh,
tough environment if you ain't tough enough to be there.
right,
Because
I
we
guess
have a
so,
great
right.
time. If you grow up there, and have a great time, it means you're tough enough to be in there.
absolutely.
Have you
right.
been to Texas before? Or is it your first time?
This Dallas?
Dallas.
Mhm.
Well, that's a
I went
city,
to Dallas.
not
Yeah.
the country. We don't ride
Yeah.
horses to work down there.
So yeah. So
That's not necessarily true.
That's true. We do
But
actually sometimes.
Texas is on my list of places to explore more. So I do.
I hope you put a lot of time on the calendar because
It's
a
going
big
to take.
place.
It'll take
Yeah.
a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got a lot.
I know.
lot
Yeah.
out there.
Okay. All right. So Brooklyn, siblings, brothers, sisters.
I have a little sister. So she was 6 years younger than me. So we're quite apart, but we're very close. She actually lives out by me now. And then growing up, we were what we call latchkey kids. Stayed at home.
Yeah.
You know, while both our parents worked, and so we were very independent. I would actually come home from school at a very young age, pick up my sister, who was an infant then, and go up to our little apartment and lock the door and wait for mom to get home. You know, eat a snack, watch cartoons on afternoon cartoons that we
Which
all
are the
used
best.
to watch. And,
I forgot they called us that latchkey kids. Yeah, I forgot. I hadn't heard that
Yeah,
term in a
you
while.
watch your afternoon cartoons till mom got home, and the reruns of the Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, and
The good stuff.
it's the
Dukes of
good
Hazzard,
stuff, right,
like
and
that.
stuff like that. So,
So we'll get into it, but you're police officer, former Marine, former prior. Which one do you prefer?
former.
No,
Former.
there's no such thing. You're a Marine.
Okay, Marine. Military history, background, and family? Or did you start it?
No,
Dad,
but
grandfather?
I
anybody?
have an aunt that was in the military. I have uncle Air Force. I have another uncle that was a Marine.
Oh yeah, you got it in there. Then.
So we've
what'd you-
had,
so what'd you
and I
think
have
when-
another uncle that was in the Army. He was out in Fort Knox as a tank commander. So it was-
So it's all across. That's kind of with our family. It's not
Yeah,
just
because
one branch.
your
Same thing
daughter's
you-
a Marine too.
right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
How was that?
How'd you pick Marine Corps?
How did I pick Marine Corps? So I initially went to the Army recruiter because I wanted to go my junior year. And since the boot camp was shorter, we always heard that they would take you over the summer, you come back, finish your senior year, and then you could go. They didn't really care for the Army recruiter too much. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the Marines. I always wanted to be a Marine. They got better uniforms.
They
They're
do.
more
They do
badass,
get
you know.
badass
So,
uniforms.
and here's the thing: Navy SEALs weren't mainstream yet, at the time. They were out there, but it wasn't very mainstream like it is today. So that wasn't even a thought
Right.
in my head at all. So I said, I'll go into Marine Corps, and they have really good uniforms. I don't know. Even being a Navy SEAL, I just kind of just ripping on you guys. You still had to wear those uniforms before you became a Navy SEAL.
Oh yeah.
That's a true statement.
Yeah, you
There
set
was a burn party after.
Yeah, burn party. You set fire to it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Oh, yeah.
I said, I don't know. That's probably the first challenge of becoming a Navy SEAL is having the humility to wear the Navy.
Well, that's the funny part. Is sometimes we had to keep a set of whites, but it's usually the ones that got issued. And there were nights when we were out doing training trips.
Mhm.
And people like in the chiefs saying, "All right, everybody put your whites on." And guys would try to put those things on from boot camp, and they're 200 pounds heavier,
Right,
probably.
right,
Right? And
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, buttons are breaking. There's no rank on it. You're just walking around. It was the funniest. I mean, some nights we dress up in our dive skins and go out. It was a free for all. But yeah, our uniforms are dead. The funniest part when I got in, because the dungarees and everything are blue. I'm like, what if you fall in the water?
Right.
Why wouldn't you want it to be any
the
other
most
color?
hysterical thing I saw was,
Then
of the
gray and
Navy
blue.
was blue
The
camis.
blue camis.
The blue camis.
I was
They're not-
like-
they got rid of those.
I was like,
recently.
are you kidding
Oh, they
me?
gone now?
Oh yeah, they took
Why would you
ours.
put
They took
that
ours.
Blue camis on a.
I know.
gray shit
I
out
know.
of no
I
water.
thought it was hysterical. I was like, are you kidding? You're gone.
I don't know who
I'm never gonna find you
I mean, if you
again.
hit the water, they turn color like a hyper shirt. It's like
Whoever thought that through
didn't.
didn't, and then I can't imagine how much money it cost to outfit the entire
Oh, that was
Navy. Anyway, so you joined the Marine Corps at 18?
joined the Marine Corps at 17.
17,
Yes.
17, yeah.
And I left probably less than a month after graduating high school, and just a few days after turning 18.
I mean, you fought in the Gulf War too. How long?
They put me on a ship. I wouldn't say.
So
here's the thing. I know.
Dude, you're
So-
on the forestall too, right?
Yes, I
All right,
tried
let's
to-
hear it.
Really?
Come on, let's hear
Yeah,
the
so
story.
here
I
I
saw
am.
that. I was like, okay.
So here
wanna
I'm
hear that.
trying to I'm ripping on the Navy, and here I end up getting stuck on a Navy.
You've been on
ship.
a boat
So-
longer than we have.
Yes, I
Right?
had. Yes, they put me on an aircraft carrier, and I was like,
On the
"Are you-"
forestall.
Yeah.
For everybody that doesn't know what that means is that
Give him a
ship-
history lesson.
Yeah, that ship took heavies. It damn near burnt all the way down to the keel, right?
Several
McCain was
times
on that boat,
Um,
yeah.
A couple times,
They
right.
said it was the nickname was the forest fire.
Feels pretty
Um,
good.
Yeah, because that thing always caught fire. Like even when I was serving on it, that thing lit on fire too. And the biggest things were the weapons that were on board that we were like, oh man, we're gonna have to go back and unload all these weapons when the ship burns down, because they would constantly show us the videos, So when you're on the ship, they only you have to watch what they're showing you, Armed Forces Network,
Oh,
So-
God.
So you're watching Top Gun over and over again. You're watching, Full Metal Jacket over and over again.
Oh,
all
at
that.
least they showed you Full Metal Jacket.
Right. So they're showing you the same moves. Well, also they would show you the documentary of when the ship caught fire in
Yeah.
the Gulf of
yeah,
Tonkin,
dude,
Tonkin
man,
Gulf,
that's
or
crazy.
in Vietnam, the one that McCain got
Yeah.
hurt on. So, and they constantly show that, and then yeah, that thing was the oldest at the time. It was the oldest carrier in the fleet. Still diesel.
Still.
It wasn't nuclear.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how much diesel you got to pump into that thing to run it
So-
around the world.
I can't imagine.
That was a big
Imagine
old
being on some
check.
of the diesel submarines, being down depth.
Right.
We just ran out of fuel.
Load tanks.
So it was interesting getting put on an aircraft carrier. But here's in hindsight thinking about it, because when the Gulf War broke out, they would ask all the Marines, "Hey, who wants to go to the fleet in case they need you? As bodies as this thing escalates." Obviously, it turned into not being much after they surrendered right away. But so of course we all were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go." I mean, that's what Marines do. Like we want to be where the action is. They said, "Well, since everybody wants to go, nobody's gonna go. So you're gonna stay on the ship." So we were like, "Oh, this is bullshit. I'm on a Navy ship. I need to be out on," complained. After years ago, and then I heard some of the stories of the guys just sitting around in the desert doing nothing,
Eating
MREs,
Oh.
living
Sandstorms.
scorpions running around everywhere. Look, in hindsight, I had it pretty damn good. We had air conditioning, we had heat, we had 3 square meals a day. Navy chow is pretty awesome.
Yeah, especially on a boat.
Yeah.
You look at the water.
Yeah, right.
Pork-
So
pork
look,
rolls.
I after that I was like, I'm good. I'm glad. And then not only that, if you think of it historically, that is the core mission of the Marine Corps. Was to be on a
It started
ship.
like that, man.
You know what I mean? So historically, I mean, I'm pretty proud of what I did. In that sense.
No, hey, thank you for your service.
Yeah,
So what? 4 or 6 years? How long were you in?
I did 4.
4 years, and then straight out. Back. Keep
So-
going.
Yeah, so I did 4 years. I went to re-enlist, and the re-enlistment office said, "Well, you have great ASVAB scores. You could pretty much do whatever you want. You can transfer over to, but we don't have anything open right now because it's right after the Gulf War. We activated so many reservists. There's nothing available. However, if you re-enlist as an 0311 infantryman, which is what my ultimate MOS was, you re-enlist in that, and as soon as we get something open, we'll get it to you." I was like,
What will I do till then?
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
you know what? I'll go ahead and get out then. And so that's when I got out. Plus, I had a family by then. Samantha was already born. My daughter Samantha was already born.
Wow, you're one of those guys.
Yeah.
Oof.
So I was like, I don't want to keep getting deployed. I mean, I kept getting deployed over and over again. I was like, okay, time to be more stable. So I got out. We initially moved to Tennessee. I actually went to school during the day full time, and then worked at a gas station at night to pay the bills. And
Really?
yeah, I managed
We're at Tennessee.
Knoxville.
Okay. That's about as 180 out from Brooklyn as you can get.
Right. So I didn't last there very long. So we spent a couple years there. I was not comfortable in that. Now, as in many years later, love it. It was,
Well, that's
but
Tell me
at the
something about
time-
working at a gas station I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
working at a gas station. No.
What kind of gas station was it?
Is it
It
pretty
was- it
chill?
was a
I mean,
Phillips
is it just like chill like you
66,
think it
yeah,
would be?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so they always be like, don't step out from behind the counter. It's dangerous, stuff like that. But I get so fired up, like people like do these drive off. They steal the gas,
Oh, like wow,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
yeah.
and here I am fucking running down. Running down the
No, you're good.
road, chasing after people who just stole gas, and I'm like violating every rule about stepping out from behind the counter, like trying to chase them down.
That's probably the big thing to do in Knoxville. It's like pump, go. When you run after them, they go in behind you and steal all the beer.
Right.
I'm not saying I've seen that happen. I'm just saying
Well, yeah. So
maybe a possibility.
and then after that, my dad had was like, hey, he had just my family, the rest of my family, my mom, my dad, my sister. My dad, his job just transferred him out to Chicago. So he's like, it's really nice here. You guys should come up here. It'll be, they got everything. They got the suburbs. They got the city right here. It's more like home, like New York. So we're like, okay. So we packed up, moved to Chicago, and then and that's where I've been ever since. Since then, my mom and dad have gotten transferred to Minnesota, and then now they're in Florida, now retired. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, there you go.
I'm not going to follow them all over the country, but yeah, so that's how we ended up in Illinois.
Florida. All right,
So-
so just to recap before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode here. So because what I like to do is I like to put everything in relative terms because people can appreciate somebody who's accomplished what you've accomplished. You come from the exact same places that we do.
Totally.
Born in Brooklyn, raised in Long Island, joined the Marine Corps at 17, fought in the Gulf War, got out, worked in a gas station. I want people to understand that out there that happens, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Because where you land is not necessarily where you're going to end up.
Absolutely.
And then after you finish school, went to Chicago. Is this when you became a police officer?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I went to school full time, my schooling was in accounting. So when I went to
God, that's terrible.
I know it.
You're just a glutton for
Special
punishment.
individual.
Absolutely.
You're
You have
a Marine.
no
First
idea.
of all, it's hard to be a Marine. Second of all, you're a Marine on a Navy boat.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to count.
So the funny thing is, when I went back to school.
Is that all they had in that too?
No.
I ain't got nothing for you in the Marine Corps. How about some accounting? Is that all we got? Yeah.
So I go there and they're saying, you have to take like an entry test, and I like scored the worst in like math, and I'm like, oh, now what am I going to do?
And you
I
chose
took
accounting.
basic math in school. That's all we had to take was basic mathematics. What time is it? Oh, 3:00. Okay. You passed. You're out. So I had no mathematics skills whatsoever. So they said you have to take all the remedial classes, which don't even count towards your.
Yeah, we were in that boat.
Yeah. So I'm like, God damn it. So I was like, all right, whatever I have to do, I'll do it. And I took all those remedial classes, starting out from the basics all the way to advanced calculus. So I was like, again, looking back on, I don't know how I did that, but ultimately I did. Yeah,
You think being a Marine helped you do that?
Absolutely.
I would guarantee your answer is yes. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you this: being a Marine is probably the first time in my life that I actually look. I played sports in high school. I played baseball when I was younger in Pee Wee leagues or whatever. I played 1 year of football and I sucked at it. I couldn't accomplish anything because I was in an environment that I didn't know, and I didn't have the ability or the guidance to get me where I wanted to be. So I stopped doing it. I quit. The Marine Corps was actually, and schooling, I hated school. I sucked at school. I barely graduated high school, barely. I look back at my high school transcript and I'm like, D, 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 F, D. I think I'm the only person in the world that ever failed driver's ed, so I'm like.
Nice job.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Let's put out evolution right there.
There you go.
Yeah, so
Write that down.
Write that down. Where's our wall?
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm like, it was because I was not into it. I was into the Marine Corps. So therefore, the Marine Corps was the first thing that I ever in my life succeeded at, and did well, So I think from then
and that
on.
showed you how good it feels to succeed. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from then on, it was, you never stop pushing for what you want, Yeah, it sucks at the time, but it's like, it's like jumping in a rapid river, The only way you're going to get out is swimming out. You can't give up, you'll die. So you have to keep swimming to get out of there.
Good
So,
analogy.
So that's how I looked at it, was you just jump in with both feet and then you figure out how to get out of there eventually. And
This episode of the podcast is brought to us by Literati. Parents, this one is for you guys. Great children's books open up new worlds for discovery. I remember I was a huge fan of reading books when I was a kid. It was a way to kind of escape reality. With Literati Kids, your child can explore uncharted places every month with spellbinding stories handpicked by experts. Let me explain to you what Literati Kids is. They are a try before you buy subscription book club. That means each month Literati delivers 5 vibrantly illustrated children's books, bringing the immersive magic of reading right to your home. We know you're stuck at home. We know you're being the teachers right now, parents. Literati's age-based book clubs ensure appropriate reads for your budding bookworm, whether they're snuggling with you for story time or maybe they're letting their imagination roam free. Each book bundle is thoughtfully tailored by education experts with 5 stories meant to spark new interest and nurture a healthy curiosity. No more sorting through hundreds of titles trying to guess what your children's going to cherish. Literati sends you the best in children's literature. Choose to purchase the ones they love, and the ones they don't, you can send them back for free. From art and adventure to tales of compassion, each Literati book follows a new, enriching theme with personalized extras like stickers, surprises, and special guest artwork. Every box is a fun and fresh adventure. Parents, I'm telling you guys, this one is for you with the kids at home. Head over to literati.com/TNQ for 25% off your first 2 orders. Select your children's book club and start them on a literary journey like no other. Literati.com is LITERATI.com/TNQ. It's going to be the only place to find 25% off your first 2 orders of this one-of-a-kind book subscription. It is the most joyful way to foster a lifelong love of journeying. That's literati.com/TNQ.
And that's how I pretty much handled the rest of, some of the accomplishments that I've had in my life. It was just
That's
jumping
how you
with both
graduated with
feet
an accounting degree too? Did you graduate with
Well,
an accounting degree?
I didn't.
Okay.
So what happened was I started out with my associate's degree in accounting. When we moved to Illinois, I actually got an accounting job, like an accounts receivable in a bakery supply company. So
Like you see on TV with the cubicles and the
Yeah.
that's
Yep, that
awesome.
was me in a cubicle. And I thought one day I saw an ad in the paper for a police officer.
In the paper.
In the newspaper. Back then, we looked at newspapers for jobs.
Mhm.
you
That was
know?
1900s.
Yeah.
Right, I remember.
I saw,
One ads, right?
and I thought, you know what? It looks like it'll be fun. Let me see what happens. I have a job, decent job. I'm not too worried about it, if I don't get it, but let's see what happens. So I applied and eventually got the call to be on the police department and then started the academy. So that's how my law enforcement career got started.
How long ago was that?
1997 when I started.
We were talking about the other day that growing up, it wasn't that we were bad in math. I mean, we got it done. It's the same way with you. Because now there's things that I couldn't be interested in them when I was at a certain age, no matter how hard I tried.
Right.
And it's just, it's kind of a shift. It's like, all right, it's not time for that part, right? We're going to do this part first, and that's going to build that block. And then when we come back around on some of the stuff that we're learning now, not only do we learn it, but we like it.
Yes,
and it just kind of
absolutely.
consumes it because there was something back in the beginning that we had to learn first to open that door.
Mhm.
And those little steps that you go through, like working at the gas station, those are like holding patterns to you going into the next
Absolutely.
one.
Yeah, but you got to be willing to do those things.
Right.
In
That's the
order to
journey.
move to the next level.
Correct.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are like, I wouldn't work at no gas station.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you know what? I
that's
have
bullshit.
a family that I have to take care of. And it's the only job that will allow me to work there in the evening while I go to school during the day. Guess what? That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Regardless of, regardless of the stigma that comes with that, and it's things that you have to do to get to where you want to be, you can't just not do it.
It's the same as the stigma that goes with people who use regardless as opposed to irregardless. I think irregardless is a fantastic
I-
word.
I-
I've heard that doesn't even exist.
That's
I'm
why I
like,
said that. I said,
well, yes, it
irregardless,
does.
I'm
I
like,
use
it's
it all the
regardless.
time, and I
know.
like it. Okay. But that's a great especially when the kids that are coming up, because you can put them in something at a certain when they're younger ages. It's kind of like running a dog in
I
a
would
horse
say-
race, and it's just they can race, but it's just different. And
Right.
if you crush their spirit in the early parts of it, man, they just won't want to get into anything.
I would add to that. It's just as important for all the active duty folks that are listening to our podcast and even the veterans. Hey, you need to take a big old piece of humble pie
Absolutely.
if you have to.
So I actually did. When I first got to Tennessee, I actually went to the employment office before I started working again. I'm like, hey, I'm here for a job. I got this awesome resume. I drafted this great resume, everything I did in the Marine Corps and everything. So the guy sitting there with me, he's looking over my stuff. He's like, you know what? This is incredible. This is awesome. You did a lot of good stuff. You have accomplished a lot of commendations, a lot of medals and stuff. That's awesome. That's great. I got nothing for you.
Doesn't mean shit in the real world.
It doesn't mean shit in the real world. That's when first time I was like, fuck, did I just screw up getting out? I got my family I got to take care of. Now what do I do? That's when I was like, you know what? I'll go back to school, do what I have to do. And that's what I did, but you're exactly right. A lot of guys that are they get out and they think I accomplished so much, and they did, but your mission's not over yet. You still have to keep pushing and keep serving, whether it's serving yourself, serving others, whatever. You have to keep going in order to keep developing yourself and keep moving forward in your journey. Absolutely.
Well, there's no stop.
No,
No,
I
it doesn't
I tell
stop.
men,
It doesn't stop.
men and women all the time when you're getting out of the military, it's like, hey, look, you ain't coming out going to be a CEO.
Right.
Chances of that is very
They
slim.
tell you that in the military. I mean, they tell you, well, there's nobody better leader than a Marine, and they tell you all that. And you get out and you believe it.
Oh, you think
do
somebody's
believe
standing
it.
at the door? Hey,
And-
where you guys at?
Exactly, right.
No,
But that's not how real life is. And a lot of guys get kicked in the balls, really, when they
Oh,
get
that's
out
why
over
everybody
that.
spirals down that little rabbit hole there.
Absolutely.
It's causing
Yeah.
so many problems.
I started telling them, look at the military, no matter how long you're in, is our schooling. You know,
Yes.
1 through 12, then you go into college 4 years, and military is actually a military science degree. And you can stay in that university as long as you want. Oh, and there's also field trials and experiences. You can go get those, overseas experiences you can get into. And when you get out, all of that that you've learned up until that point is what you're taking into your job.
Mhm.
So It's like with anything else. If we had some CEO of a company join the military, he's like, well, I should be the skipper. I was the CEO of this company. Why
Right.
is that a thing? Like, well, come on.
Get your ass down there and push that broom for a little while.
Exactly. Absolutely. And a lot of guys have a hard time swallowing that pill.
They do.
You know, and it does cause a lot of problems. I tell a lot of the recruits when they start off that, especially my guys that were in the military, like, hey, I respect what you did.
You're a new guy
appreciate your
again.
service, but you're a new guy. You know nothing. Okay. You're starting at ground zero again. Know your place. Don't come here with an ego. Don't come here being cocky, because you don't know anything. You don't know what it's like to be on the street. Okay?
Your experiences will make you naturally gravitate to the top.
Yes, absolutely.
It will.
If they use those experiences properly.
Correctly.
If they use those experiences as excuses, which I've seen also, they're not going to get anywhere. And they're just going to be the grumpy asshole who thinks they're better than everybody.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that, okay? Your experiences are your experiences that you keep here. That's what drives you forward to keep on pushing.
Sure. It's
That's
the same thing
what I
like
tell
when they come
them.
out of the university, they're college experiences. So if you're going to share yours, it'd be like them telling you about theirs.
Right.
And just kind of relate it. Like you just went to different schools. And then now you're dropped into the same spot.
Absolutely.
And everything that, when people hear that Marine tag, there's a lot that comes with that.
Yes.
That's what you
Absolutely.
never forget. I mean, there's a long line of men and women that made that respect all the way up to what you are, up to what they walk in. And if, you know, when you go in, just like any other combat situation, kind of humbled up and ready to rock and roll.
That's right.
All right. So Academy, now we're into our career. Just a little background on that, and then we'll get into the.
All right.
How long were you in before you went to the law school? You've been in law school. If you've been a lawyer for 16 years, so you were for 8 years.
I was working as a police officer.
Yeah.
I started in 97 and I started law school in 2000.
Oh, that was quick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How'd you do that?
Well, so again, it was I see something that I want to do, and I'm like, I fall in love with it, and I want to accomplish that. So I would go to court all the time. You know, I'd see all the attorneys there, and I'd sit there and kind of like lean back on, I could do that, you know. So I did the research and started doing, getting involved, taking the LSAT and finding out the schools that I wanted to go to, and then got accepted to DePaul University in Chicago and started doing that.
Good school.
So yeah, good school. And there was a couple of them, but I was like, DePaul has a good basketball team, so let's we'll go with that. Any college that has a good sports team is a good college.
Yeah.
Man, that's a thing.
That's a great litmus
absolutely.
test. If they got a good sports team.
Right. I don't care about anything else.
There,
right.
It's
Yes,
a good
absolutely.
Time, good
right.
vibe.
Right.
Sure.
So I ended up going to DePaul, and that's when I went to law school. And then I would just go to law school in the evening. I would work in the midnight shift at the police department. So I'd sleep during the day, get up, take the train into the city, go to law school, do my classes, take the train back, and then drive to work my midnight shift, come back home, go to sleep, do it all over again.
And study
somewhere
in between all of that.
Well, a lot of times, it was on the train. I'd either sleep or study on the train on the way in, so.
That's the thing. When you hear the story, when you're sitting there, and I hadn't been through that, it sounds exhausting and like overwhelming. And I'm sure people, that's the reason they don't try and do that. It's like, just study on the train while you're there. Do you have any time to do anything else for yourself?
No,
that's what you're doing. That is what you're doing for yourself, right? So when you love it that much, it's not, when you talk about it afterwards, the grind is there. And we kind of do that naturally so people understand how much, how hard it is and where you're sitting. That's important. But it's also important to know that it's just doing that same step every day. It's one day. I mean, yesterday's gone, tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Right. So you're putting out for one whole day, rest up. And that cycle that we put ourselves on with the clock, the sleep at a certain time, up at a certain time, at certain ages, you can switch that. Mm-hmm. And we do it in the military all the time.
Absolutely.
And
so not healthy.
It's not.
Yeah, but that's why you do it at those ages, right? Because you can take it.
The only regret in all of that I do have is the spending time with the family. Is that because a lot that gets sacrificed a lot when you're doing those things, and it's not just the lack of spending time with the family, but it's also the stress of going through all that. You know, there were some stressful times. There were times where I didn't get a lot of sleep, you know, and then I was just grumpy dad who didn't get enough sleep and needs to study and do whatever, you know. That's not good for the kids, obviously, you know, and obviously in hindsight, you think about that and
All you gotta do is break open a law book, start reading them, and they'd fall asleep, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Like, come here, Dad's got to study.
Mhm, right. You know, but I mean, at the time, you're thinking, I'm doing the best that I can. You know, ultimately, this is going to pay off for all of us. It's going to pay off for me. It's going to pay off for you guys, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be good. And that's my thought then. Still good intentions, you know, but looking back, I probably could have done better as, you know, spending time with the family and stuff like that, and doing more.
Don't
things
do
and-
that to yourself.
Yeah, I
Everyone
wouldn't
says that.
regret
Every
that.
guy,
I know.
We all say that. I mean, that's a sure, but
Yeah, but I look
But you're
back and I
doing
see
that
how
for
messed
them.
up my kids are now. But
Well,
no, I'm just
I-
kidding.
what are you talking about? It turned out exactly. It's all that hard work. You're doing it for the family.
Right.
So you said earlier that was it's kind of a double-edged sword having a law degree, being a police officer.
Yeah, did you
because-
come off the line? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Did you come off the line once you became a lawyer? Or did you stay on?
No, I
just-
stayed.
yeah,
Well,
to
so
become a-
what I did was when I passed the bar exam in Illinois and became a lawyer, I actually left police work and I practiced law full time. And I worked for a law firm that defends police officers in civil liability issues, excessive force, you know, officer involved shooting and stuff like that, constitutional issues. So I did that full time. And it was a great experience. It was an amazing experience seeing it from that perspective. But man, I missed the police work. I was miserable all the time. I missed the camaraderie. I missed the work. I missed being around the guys and girls that do that job. Kind of like when you get out of the military and you kind of like not around that anymore. And there's something missing in your life,
Sure.
you know? And I remember thinking, shit, you know, am I going to disappoint everybody if I just go back to being a police officer because everybody was expecting me to be this attorney, you know? And ultimately, I made the decision that I needed to go back, and my police department was gracious enough to take me back and pick up right where I left off, you know,
wow,
rather
wow.
than starting all over and everything like that. I mean, I picked up right where I left off, and that was huge in my career to allow me to do that because I was easily transitioned right back into being a police officer. I'm now happy, but now I have this huge experience behind me that I was able to do. And I mean, it ultimately helped me in my career.
I was going to say,
incredibly.
Did it change the way you policed?
Absolutely.
In what way?
Absolutely. So when you see things, you look at the bigger picture at that time.
So enforcing the
rather
law
than-
and knowing the law.
is so the biggest
I
thing.
wouldn't say knowing, but understanding.
The understanding and applicability, you know, applying what you know is because you got to think that police officers a lot of times, just like in probably in combat situation, everything's rapidly evolving. Everything changes dynamically right in front of you. One thing changes immediately. Police officers have to be able to think that quick to adapt to those situations when it's, you know, a critical event occurring, you know, in front of them, whether it's defending somebody else or defending themselves or, you know, trying to save somebody's life or whatever it may be. Having that education and understanding and being able to apply those principles helps incredibly, you know, and not only that, but it allows me to have, you know, you are more proficient in your job. You're more confident in your job the more you know your job.
Sure.
The better you know your job, the more confident you are in your job. So if I have somebody on the street that challenges me, you know, a civilian that challenged me as a police officer, I know what I can do, what I can't do. I'm not sitting there going, if I put my hands on them, am I going to get sued? Am I going to do this? You know, is this going to happen to me? I don't have to start second guessing everything that is about to occur, which slows your reaction time down.
Right.
Now it helps me be able to, you know what, if I put my hands on them, I'm lawfully justified in doing so, and I'm able to take care of business then.
Is that kind of curriculum kind of migrating over into the academies or the departments, or do you see there's sign of given present day circumstances and situations that are happening around the country?
Right.
Is that what does that live inside the academies, or is that
Well,
something that we should probably migrate in there?
Well, so it's very important that even now that we start migrating that into our
'Cause
police
it's not.
academies now. Well, here's the thing: there's a
At that
lot of
depth.
right. There's a lot of instructors, especially so the police academy that I'm at. There are a lot of very good instructors, and we have very similar mindset in how we're going to train our new recruits who are going to be taking over for us. As we kind of migrate out of the profession, they're going to be taking over. But there's always something guiding that. There's always something overseeing that, and they don't always agree. So, for example, our particular police academy is operated out of a college. The college doesn't always agree with how we're training our recruits because they look at them as college students. They're not college students. These are police officers, and then we have the Training and Standards Board, which is governed by the state of Illinois, which also doesn't necessarily fit the criteria that we feel. They set bottom, guidelines. They said this is the minimum standard that they have to do, and we're like, no, we need more than minimum standards, because these kids are going out there and they're putting their life on the line, and the way things are unfolding on the news and everything's so rapidly changing, and so it's
Because
almost
the
chaotic
streets don't
out
get
there.
soft. They don't get weaker, they get harder.
They-
So if you make the academy weaker and the streets get harder, what you put in there, we were talking about this the other day. Like some of these kids never been punched in the face, and the first time
We
they
talk
get
about
hit
that all
and they
the
see their
time.
blood going,
Yeah.
you're going to go straight to your gun. I mean, you think you're dying. You don't have any
Right.
idea if something's attacking
So
you. Right?
a lot of the instructors by us, I mean, that's what we say. We say, and so I know a lot of the defensive tactics instructors that we have. They ask them, has anybody ever been choked to the point where they're about to pass out? And there's no, of course, hands go up. And most of these kids still live at home and everything, with mom and dad, and they'll go up and say, I've never been choked out to the point where I'm about to pass out. That's important to know, because if you're a police officer fighting for your life and you're getting choked and you're about to pass out, what are you going to do?
Sure.
You can't just tap out and your perpetrator or your offender is going to stop. They're going to keep going. So at that moment, is that the time to withdraw your gun and shoot somebody who's unarmed and say, hey, I was getting choked and I was about to pass out. So we ask for volunteers and we say,
that's the closest I've ever been to death.
yeah, right, absolutely. So
And they don't know if there's a difference between someone trying to beat your ass and kill you, or whip you and get away, or scared to death and fighting, and there's just the fight. I mean, the natural instinct.
right.
And if you've never been in that, being in that situation teaches you that. That's how people get proficient
Absolutely.
at fighting.
Right.
That's just how it is. You can see it coming a mile away.
But that's not on any curriculum that the state sets. The college doesn't set that and say, hey, okay, we're going to choke our recruits so that way they know what it means. I mean, could you right? Even now, I'm like, ooh, but or punch, like you said, punched in the face. We pepper spray them.
Well, that's good, but no one out there carries pepper spray. Everyone has those a fist.
Trust me, I take great pleasure in pepper spraying the recruits. I mean, I step in
sure,
front
yeah.
of them.
Why not? Who doesn't?
Right? But they don't get punched in the face. They get pepper sprayed. And who's going to pepper spray them, right? But
you don't think you could have people signing up for the academy if they knew it was that hard? Like, man, they beat you. And then, the people were like, hey, if you know what these guys have to go through just to earn the right, I mean, even if you go start whipping on them, they're ready for that.
Right.
Because people sense fear. They can understand it. And it's a little feed off of it.
Right.
So stress it has to be has to be as equal as what you're going into.
Why don't they? Because I've had that question before. Is like, if you set the standards the way that you want them to be set, why don't we do that? And they're like, because nobody will show up, nobody will apply it, and I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
You'll have people showing up, but you'll have a lot more people falling out, and that's what here. Well,
so that's a quality over quantity thing, and that's how we get in these problems. Is you try to put quantity out there, and people don't understand it.
So if you have a smaller amount of quality, isn't that the same as a bad amount of quantity?
So, but now add the dollar value to that. You
It'd
spend all this money,
quality instead of quantity.
Well, you spend all this money training somebody, putting the time in, and now you're going to just dump them. Municipalities don't have that kind of money to be feeding into. Somebody shows up, they fill an application, they look great, they've done whatever they've done in their life, and the police and fire commission says, okay, they're a good candidate to hire them. So they recommend them to the police department. The police department says, okay, we'll hire them. They go to the academy, and it's like, you're a mess.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Green Chef. We're 2 months into the new year. I hope you guys are sticking to your healthy eating habits, your workout goals, your weight loss routines, whatever it is that you set your mind to this year. I hope you guys are sticking to it. I hope you guys are doing all right as it pertains to healthy eating. If you guys are struggling, you should certainly check out our friends at Green Chef. They are the first USDA certified organic meal kit company, which means you can enjoy clean ingredients you can trust, which are seasonally sourced for peak freshness. Now, you guys have heard me talk about HelloFresh before. I absolutely love HelloFresh meals, and Green Chef is actually owned by HelloFresh. And with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. I love switching between the brands, and now our listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount from us. One of the coolest things about Green Chef is that they are the first ever keto meal kit on the market, which makes sticking to a low-carb lifestyle super easy, with recipes averaging only 14 net carbs each. Now, I've done the keto game, I've done the low carb game, and it is one of the most effective lifestyles that you can take. But sometimes it can be hard to stick to it, but that's not the problem with Green Chef. Now, Green Chef makes eating well easy and affordable with plans to fit every lifestyle. So whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, or you're just looking to eat healthier, there's a wide range of recipes to suit any diet or preference. We want you guys to check them out. This year, HelloFresh, Green Chef, it's where I'm getting all my lunches and dinners. It's going to keep me on track. It's going to help me cut down on that going out to eat. So if you guys want to check them out, you should go over to greenchef.com/90TNQP. Use our code 90TNQP to get $90 off, including free shipping. That's greenchef.com/90TNQP, and use our code, which is 90TNQP. You're going to get $90 off, including free shipping. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well.
The person doesn't have the mental mindset to do this job. They don't have the skills to do this job. They don't have any number of things that we can immediately identify in a recruit and say, you're going to struggle, And then we say, hey, this person is not going to be good. They're going to say, you know what? We hired them. We put the money into them already to get them where they are right now. Guess what? They rely on hope that ultimately they'll get to where they need to be. And maybe eventually they will. Maybe eventually a light bulb will go off and it'll click in them. But how much time is going to pass before that light bulb goes off, but it comes down to kind of money and how much money departments are willing to lose in that training. Yeah,
so ultimately, you're willing to spend more to keep them around in the hopes that works itself out, as opposed to
a lot of municipalities.
I mean, reap what you sow, right? If you put something, knowingly put something in there, that's going to be.
There's a lot of people that are in law enforcement that probably shouldn't be there. There are, whether they don't have the mental capability or the physical capability or whatever that particular department's culture needs for their demographics, they may not fit that criteria, but they're going to keep them anyway. Because what are they supposed to do? Just say, oh, you're too weak, we're going to let you go. You don't have the right mindset, we're going to let you go, but not after spending all that money. They're going to sit there and hope. Maybe move them to a different job. Maybe move them to a desk job or, school resource job, or find somewhere else to shuffle them. Look, the military is not much different than that. I mean, there's a lot of people that are in the military that probably don't belong in there either. They go in there and they let them through. They got past, whatever boot camp they did, and they're not just going to toss them out. They're going to shuffle them around and put them where they need to be until their time's up or until they realize themselves that they're not cut out for that job. But that's hope. You're just hoping that happens. Chances are, the person's not going to look in the mirror and then all of a sudden go, you know what, I'm not cut out for this job. It happens, but not too often. I've had kids at the academy come to me the next day after the first day and say, yeah, I'm not cut out for this. Okay. What'd you do before this? I worked in the library. Okay.
Sure, there's the unknown too. Scared. I'm like, everyone thinks that while they're going through it. And you hold on to those, but I mean, there's the
I think the first couple of days of boot camp, that was the worst experience of my entire life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
No, the thing was that when I went to boot camp, I had prepped myself so much. I was like, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be like. It was, and there were guys that were crying in boot camp.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go home, and this is ridiculous. Yeah. Right. I'm going to get out of here, swim across the swamp at Paris Island and go, there were guys that were doing that. There were guys that were thinking that or saying that and losing their minds. I'm like, how didn't you not know what you were getting into when you got in here? I did so much research, showed up at the recruiter's office every weekend for their little MEPS meetings. And, I knew, listened to all the audio tapes of the sounds of boot camp, and,
We did that too.
I did everything I possibly could to mentally prepare myself for that. So that way it wasn't a shock. And during boot camp, I spent most of my time laughing my ass off because I thought the drill instructors were hysterically funny at the shit that they were saying. I thought, some of the recruits that were like getting thrashed and stuff, I thought that was funny to me. The games that we played, I thought were hysterical. And they would make us drink like a shitload of water because I went through at Parasign in August, and it was hot, and they would like, you have to drink water, but they'd make us drink that water after chow. We'd have to drink 2 canteens full, hold them over our heads to show that we drank them. Next thing you know, guys are throwing up. I'm sitting there throwing up too because we just ate and now I'm full of water. I'm hysterically laughing while I'm puking because I thought, this is hysterical. This is funny. Even now, I think it's pretty funny, but.
The good old days.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So.
But to my point, I mean, there are people down here that are designed for stuff like that.
Right.
People down here get sick. People down here never get sick.
Right.
And that's, I mean, you can you see them when you're going through it. And it doesn't make anybody a bad person because they're not cut out for that job, especially if they want to serve.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, there are a lot of jobs out there for people to do other than some of that particular one.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And that's why we have the testing and the training.
Right. But like you were going back to like some of the training and stuff, we try to incorporate that in our academy as far as that mindset. But there's kind of like, that duality of, are you going to be a warrior police officer or are you going to be a guardian police officer? And, we say we focus on being a warrior police officer because these guys have to be able to defend themselves and other people. But you get a lot of people who look at that and go, that's not the mindset anymore. We want them to be the guardian police officer. I argue, why can't we be both? Why can't I teach my guys to have the proper, warrior mindset, but act as the guardian? Educate yourselves.
Sure.
About,
Sheepdog, right?
All right. You're talking about how much wasting money on people. It's one of our citizens. You're not wasting a dime on them. It's our money anyways. You've educated them up to a certain point and trained them to a certain point. It's not a bad thing. They're still around, even no matter what they go do. They're part of our community and they have that lesson. They've seen enough in there. So it's wasting money on a citizen, training them up to do something in that direction. I mean, I guess you can look at it a bunch of different ways, but
let's fast forward a little bit. So given 2020 just ended and what a absolute shit show that was across the country in general. I'm sure it was even out of control in Chicago as well.
Yeah, putting up some awesome numbers.
Then here we find ourselves in the first week of 2021 and the riot in the Capitol just happened. They depending on which news channel, I try to watch them all. Depending on which one you're talking about, they're talking either good or bad about the Capitol Police and the officers that were present. In 2020, all they talked about, majority of the time I saw, was just negative feedback about the officers. Is there something that you can share with us that obviously the media is not portraying, that they give perspective to us that aren't wearing a shield? Because you're your teacher now.
Yes.
So I'm asking that you kind of educate our listeners and us included on something we haven't seen, heard, just perspective.
There's a lot of things that it different from all, police officers that have different demographics that they're protecting or dealing with. As far as what those guys are dealing with, I mean, it's chaotic. It is chaotic. And I'm embarrassed at what our society has become and what we've allowed, but we now turn around and say we want our police officers to stop that. And now you having these guys go in there and they're like, wait a minute, we were getting bashed before for taking police action, doing what we're supposed to do to protect people, to protect property. And now they're all second guessing themselves. Yeah. Because now what do we do?
That's created to keep our country from going into anarchy was the one that was lynched through 2020.
Absolutely.
And now they're like, where are you guys at?
But now there's guys that are afraid. And that's what I was saying earlier, is that you have one mindset of guys that are like, you know what? If you do anything out there, you're going to get fired, you're going to get sued, you're going to get thrown in jail. So there's a lot of guys that are like, you know what, I'm just treading along, doing my time, and that's it. But you also have this mentality of guys that are saying, you know what, we need to adapt to how things are going. If we, as a profession, as a law enforcement profession, learn to adapt to how society, we can't, like we talked about this earlier. If I dig my heels in and say, nope, this is how we've always done police work, this is how we're going to continue to do police work. If you do that, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to advance as a profession, and things are not going to get better. But if you adapt to how you do police work, educating yourself on more mental health things, emotional intelligence, understanding why people act the way they act, and those certain things. I could study the law, and I could study Fourth Amendment, civil rights, constitutional law, back and forth. But if I'm not able to apply those other skills as far as having emotional intelligence and having, my understanding of mental health, what is all that stuff going to do? I'm going to go out there and not do anything, So that's our police officers now are probably the most educated police officers that we've had,
sure. Yeah,
ever.
we'll talk about that too, man. You guys got to know religion, social status, standings,
Absolutely.
drugs and how they react on people.
Absolutely. There's so much stuff that they have to learn. And a lot of that stuff is not stuff that they get out of the academy, but they get it from just street experience. Getting out there and on the job training, just get out there and do it. And then you'll learn as you go. Hopefully you'll be okay.
It seems like, statistically, a lot of these circumstances that are thrust into the mainstream media are younger officers. Not all the time, but younger officers that maybe haven't had the opportunity to learn exactly what they need to, and they get caught in that situation. And like we said before, you get slapped in the face, everything kind of goes out the window.
Right.
You think we demand a lot out of our officers as a society?
We do.
Is that, and I think that's unfair.
Yeah, without demanding it from ourselves. We wouldn't have to call them if we were doing what we wanted.
And that's a great statement. I mean,
what I'm talking about? It's like
absolutely.
it's an ebb and flow. It's like water with us in that line. It's like, hey, we want to move with you as well, and then when you get too far out of line, we'll hit you back in there. But then we have to take the responsibilities of ourselves. Like, why do we need them to come in, right? Evaluate that part. So,
but there's, but we tell our recruits is that when you now enter this profession, you are no longer in it for yourself. This is a profession that is self-sacrificing. You're giving up your liberties for other people's liberties. That comes with the job, and you have to be willing to accept that, as a profession, as your job. You have to be willing to understand it, and you can't forget it, because as we go, you become jaded with the streets. People don't respect you. People curse you out. People do this. They spit on you. They do whatever. And you become jaded. You're like, screw this. But you know what? You can't forget why you got into this profession. That's core. That's your foundation. Why did you get into doing this? Because you want a police pension after so many years? No, that's not why you came into this job. You came into this job because you want to help people. You want to serve people. You want to change society. A lot of guys ultimately feel that no matter how hard they spin their wheels, they're not having an effect on anything, but that's not true. You can have an impact on somebody's life in 10 minutes of interacting with them. You don't know how you're, changing somebody's life with just a smile, just a wave, or, it doesn't have to be like, I had to breathe life back into them in order to affect their life. It could be as simple as a nod, a wave, smile. Sure. It's to have an impact on somebody's life. You don't know, so don't become jaded. Stay focused on why you got into this job. You got into this job to help people.
I'm saying that to the civilians. Don't get jaded. Smile, wave back. Let them know that, hey, you're happy to see them when they're. I mean, it's kind of that same thing,
right? But as far as civilians go, we as a society need to understand what our police officers are going through. But there's people that don't care. I mean, they don't,
Sure.
They're not
all across the board. People who don't want to know because
they're going to use that as an excuse to act.
That's why y'all exist, so they don't have to see that. I get that part too.
People use, well, I got slapped by a police officer when I was a young kid, so therefore I hate the police. Oh, so that's your excuse to act like an asshole for the rest of your life is because of that? No. The police.
Yeah, he's probably acting like an asshole to begin with. That's why he got slapped.
Which, exactly.
You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. So it's like, okay, but I'm not here to slap you. I'm here to help you. You called me. I'm here to serve you. So what do you need? You don't give me an attitude. I'm here to kind of, if you need me, I'm here. If not, then I'll go about my business and, you can figure it out for yourself, But I think, again, just both sides need to have an understanding and educate themselves. They need to educate themselves in, police officers need to educate themselves in, like I said, mental illness, emotional intelligence, that kind of things, being society's leaders, and not falling victim or falling into the rest of that, what the media is trying to sell you. Okay, that's number one. Number two, society needs to educate themselves more about exactly what the police officers do and why. I try to do that. We host a Citizens Police Academy, and we had that conversation a little bit earlier, and that's I try to educate them on why we do what we do. So that way, when you see the news and you see a police officer dragging somebody out of the window of a car, you know exactly, number one, there's probably more to it than that little clip of the officer dragging him out of there. And you understand why that officer may have dragged that person out of the car. Did they see a weapon? Did they see something in there that was dangerous? Was the person under arrest and they were refusing to comply with the police? Because ultimately there's that line in the sand when my commands aren't working, I have to use force. Yeah. And police force is not pretty, regardless
Go with it.
of what you show. Me striking somebody with a baton, even though I may have to do that, that doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. People see that and they're like, oh, there they are again. There are the police, do what they have to do. So helping society understand why we do what we do, maybe they'll view those things from a different perspective and, not be so judgmental on the police,
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Whether you're an active duty service member, veteran, DoD civilian, or even a military family member, you can join Navy Federal. That means if you've served in any branch of the military, it doesn't have to just be the Navy. It could be Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard. You can join Navy Federal Credit Union too. On average, Navy Federal members earn and save $361 more per year. That's the dollar value of Navy Federal's 2019 member give back study. You could pay no fees, get low rates and rate discounts, plus earn cash back and grow your savings. Navy Federal puts members first by helping them save money, make money, and enjoy peace of mind and security through personalized, around-the-clock service. Plus, now's a great time to join. If you have a large credit card balance after the holidays, let Navy Federal Credit Union help you rebalance your priorities. Make a plan to do away with high-interest credit card debt by transferring your balance to a Navy Federal credit card. Visit NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Insured by NCUA.
One time we had the president of the college that I worked for was a Navy admiral, a former Navy admiral, and it was a female. She was awesome, very military, very very high up. Had held some very respectable positions in the Navy, and so during Veterans Day one time, she had come to me and she said, "Hey, our guest speaker didn't show up. I need you to give. You're now our guest speaker." I'm like, why? I can't do this on the spot. Like, she goes, "Yes, you're a Marine. You can do this." I said, "What do you want me to talk about?" She goes, "Just talk about your experiences and serving, society, military and police, and how that relates." And I thought, I'm sitting there thinking now, and I'm thinking, when you're in boot camp and stuff like this, they talk about like all these heroes that have gone before you. Sorry. And you look up to them, and you're like, oh man. Chesty Puller and John Basilone and Smedley Butler. You're thinking about all these great people, and your whole thing is, I want to live up to those standards. Not everyone in the military gets to be in a situation, for example, that you've been in. Right. We don't all get that, but we should all strive to be prepared for that moment, because you never know what's going to So that was what, what I was talking about, was that you should always never stop serving, never stop. It's your mission in life to keep on going, because that's how you look. I'm never going to be a war hero. My time has passed. My opportunities have passed, but that doesn't mean I should stop what I'm doing. I shouldn't stop looking up to Chesty Pullers,
Sure.
Or John Barcelona, or all the other heroes that we studied. That's not my calling in life, is that I was going to be a war hero. I'm not, what was the guy from...
Audie Murphy?
No. Forrest Gump, right? He's like, I was supposed to die on that battlefield. You robbed me.
Dan.
Dan, you robbed me of that. You stole that from me. You know what? That wasn't your calling.
Right.
You were prepared for that. That's awesome. But it doesn't stop there. It keeps on going. And that's what people like myself have had to come to terms with. I'm never going to be, the big war hero that, you are, or that, some of the other guys are. That's not my calling. My calling is focusing on our civilians that are trying to learn more about the police, and the recruits that are trying to be the police. That's my calling. And that's where I apply everything that I've learned, including looking up to all those heroes and applying it to that respect.
What would be a piece of advice you would give somebody, just off the top of your head? It's like, hey, look, troubling times, trying times. Our country is in a toilet bowl, spinning down the drain right now. I mean, from your perspective, what would you say to somebody? Hey, don't give up.
Well, you can't give up.
Don't believe in what you see on TV.
Well, yeah, there's a whole list of things that I would say is, number one, don't always believe what you see on TV. Yesterday, for example, we're watching that whole thing unfold, and they're like, look at the Trump supporters, raiding the Capitol. And it's like, and then all of a sudden we hear that, okay, it's not Trump supporters. People have infiltrated and, they started doing this. Don't always believe what you see. And that goes true for any side that you're on. When you see like these peaceful protests for like Black Lives Matters, or what any other organization where they start off peaceful and then they end up going down the toilet. There's people that are showing up that their sole mission in life is to create anarchy and chaos. Those are the people that are showing up in the name of those organizations, even yesterday, and making everybody else look bad. You can have a peaceful protest, which I am all for. Hey, that's your First Amendment right. But the minute it turns into that's terrorism. That is what, and you can't hide that under the Constitution. You can't sit there and say, it's my constitutional right to storm the Capitol building. No, that's not your constitutional right. Your constitutional right is to, protest the government, say what you need to say, and but once you start breaking the law, holding the Constitution in front of you, saying it's my right to break the law under the Constitution, that doesn't mix. And that's what we're seeing. And that's what we're seeing a lot of our, for some reason, I'm not quite sure when this happened, but it's become acceptable in our society to allow that. And it's, I sit there losing my mind, screaming at the TV going, how is this, allowed? We're an embarrassment to the rest of the world who are looking at this and seeing us behave in this manner. It's like, yes, we have something great. We have a U.S. Constitution that we follow. And it is a very living document, which evolves and changes. And that's amazing. That's the amazing thing about it. But when we allow it to evolve into that's when we have to take a step back and go, okay, hold on. Something's not right here. We need to do something different.
Sure. It's only a living document if you have the people around it to keep it that way. And it's kind of the set in stone. As we change around it, that's kind of the guiding force to stay.
But we all have to agree on that too.
Sure.
Everybody.
There used to be what was called a neutral zone. Like there's some things people there's a left hand, a right hand, left side, right side out here. If they don't get along with and everyone knows what they are, you can sit there and argue, because we've been arguing over it since the beginning. Right. Since like the beginning.
Sure. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's kind of a neutral area. That's why we send our leaders up there. And for those of y'all up in DC and the leadership, you need to listen to that. people said that they're embarrassed and they were shameful, and you hear hypocrites and all. And shame, when you start hearing that word, y'all need to do something.
Right. You know, and I get asked this all the time. Well, what should we do? You know, what?
I'm talking about not with just necessarily y'all, because y'all are enforcing the laws that are supposed to be coming down through there.
Yeah, but we can only do so much that
Correct.
our leaders are going to allow us to do.
Right.
You know, and that's, you know,
lead, follow, or get out of the way.
You know, I had read a book a while ago called The Generals, and I'm trying to remember the author of it, and it was a really good book, and it showed like how our leadership in the military had changed from, you know, back the way it used to be, where they let the generals run the wars, to now where it's totally different, you know, and a lot of our military,
when was that shift? World War II, after Korea, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and it really became prevalent during the Vietnam War, you know, and then from there, where it was more run by politicians who had no experience in doing so. And that's when we started running into a lot of our political problems overseas, as far as, you know, combat wise.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys, like I said, you guys have experienced that firsthand. It's very similar to what we're dealing with in law enforcement now. You know, when we try to do our jobs, we're constantly getting our hands tied by the people, by our leaders, you know, not necessarily in law enforcement, but like our politicians who don't understand why we do what we do, or they use us as their, you know, catapult into a political position. That's a problem. You know, and what do? They sit there, they criticize us, they second guess us, they make public comments, negative, disparaging against us without getting all of the information, and that makes the rest of society see that and look bad upon us. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, you're allowing what we saw yesterday on the Capitol was, you know, people storming, you know, the Capitol building and going, well, where are all the police? Well, the police are going to do the best they can, but they're also wondering, how far can I take this? What can I do?
Got a phone.
You know, it's like, what if I get caught on videotape dragging somebody out by their feet who's trespassing on the Capitol? You know, how's that going to look? What's that? You know, what's that going to do to my career?
Hey, where's leadership? We're not this. Civility.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Fight Camp. Fight Camp brings the boxing gym right to your home with a mix of cardio and conditioning for a full body workout. You guys have been hearing me talk about this thing for a while now. You heard me talking about how bad I wanted one. Well, I've got one coming, and I'm super excited because my house is almost done. They were painting it yesterday. There's still a lot of stuff that has to be done on the inside of my house before I can move in, but it's getting close, and I'm excited, and that means my 3-car garage, the 3rd car garage will be my home gym. I'm super excited about this. Fight Camp is made for beginners to experienced boxers who want to box from home, with new content being released weekly from easy to advanced. I've never boxed before. I've always thought it would be fun. I've been looking for an exciting new workout, and this will be the one for me. Can't wait to have it. Fight Camp comes with all the gear you need to box at home, including a freestanding punching bag, boxing gloves, quick hand wraps, and their unique punch tracking sensors that show you real-time progress and stats on any iOS device. It is great for kids. It's great for adults. That's because these workouts are at home. They're safe because there's no heavy weights and spinning wheels involved. The Fight Camp app comes with over 600 workouts and tutorials, and they release 12 new boxing and kickboxing workouts every week. The real nice thing is you're learning from 6 highly qualified trainers, all with real fight experience, ranging from pro MMA fighters and even a mother of 2 to a kickboxing champion. And as someone who likes to nerd out on technology, Fight Camp's new technology that tracks each punch is impressive. It measures speed, volume, output, so you can follow your progress, push yourself, and even compete on the community leaderboard. Join the Fight Camp community. Connect with the Fight Camp community on Facebook. They've got over 10,000 members where you can share your successes, talk through hardships with others online, rally around each other, help each other, support each other, just like we do at TNQ. Fight Camp offers financing so you can pay over 24 months and get your new gym now. Fight Camp offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. So just go to joinfightcamp.com/TNQP. That's right, give Fight Camp a try, and within 30 days, if you don't love it, you can send it back. They're going to give you a refund. Fight Camp is the new way to work out at home. Make a change. Join the community that teaches you the art of boxing while following the most intense workouts that are as quick as 15 minutes. To get free shipping on Fight Camp, just go to joinfightcamp.com/TNQP. One more time, guys, that's joinfightcamp.com/TNQP. Check them out.
Absolutely.
And
you know,
the police department is the one you can't really throw that blanket on about all of them, because each town, the police have to police it differently. That's why you don't.
Absolutely.
It's not one. You don't go up and get trained out and get thrown out into our communities. That's not. It's 50 states, very, very, very different states of people.
Yes.
Right. And then you get smaller and smaller into the communities. So the police is inside those is for a reason. This is because they live there, they grew up there, they know how it works. If that town's running, then you got the police force. If it's going, it's going.
Yeah.
And that's important to remember.
To remember that across the country, it's the cultural demographics that dictate the enforcement, that dictate, how the police officers are going to act, how they're going to respond,
Once you plug into that phone, it's like plugging into one big high school.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yes. So it's hard to say, people, I get asked that, what do you think about what this officer did in New York City? What do you think about this police officer that he did it? I can't make a blanket statement. I don't know why that officer did what he did. Maybe he had to. Maybe he had the mindset that, hey, this is what I have to do. Maybe he got stuck in that training cycle where, this wasn't working, so I need to, we always say that they get stuck in a rut. If I'm in training at the academy and I'm training recruits how to strike with a baton, and I'm teaching them on each other, well, they're going to go half speed on each other. Now, obviously, they're not going to go full speed, and they're going to submit to each other right away. They're not going to resist. But the first time that happens out in the street and the person doesn't submit, they get in that training cycle. Well, maybe I'm not hitting them hard enough. Maybe I'm not doing something properly. So what do? They strike harder and harder and harder. Somebody's videotaping them. They see that and they go, look at this poor guy who's getting struck by this police officer.
Sure.
Same thing with, I talk about this all the time when we teach our defensive tactics with handcuffing. Just something as simple as handcuffing. When we go through the dynamics of handcuffing at the academy, we do it on each other. Sir, turn around, put your hands behind your back, bend at the waist, turn to the left, okay? And what do? The recruits do exactly as they're instructed. Mm-hmm. They turn around, put their hands behind their back. But what happens when they go and do that on the street and the first time they say, sir, turn around and put your hands behind your back, and the guy goes, fuck you. Then what? Then what do? We don't go that far in the academy. We teach, because we submit to each other. Yeah. We do Red Man, which is like a full all out, we do that. But I don't even think the recruits get enough of that, of that stress environment training, Certainly when they go back to the police department.
That's what the job is.
Certainly when they go back to the police departments are not going to, again, spend a lot of money doing that in training, and the risk of somebody getting hurt doing that. And now you got an officer who's injured that can't do his job, So there's that balance, So there's a lot of officers that the only training they get is in the academy, and then once they get on the street, the rest of it is just street training. I'm not making a blanket statement about all police departments, of course.
No, sure, yeah,
we talk about varying, clear, sure. But there are agencies that I know of that, you'll ask an officer, say, when was the last time you did a certain, defensive tactics training? Well, not since I was in the academy. Really? That's not good. That's not good. So as police officers, we have to then maybe train ourselves, educate ourselves, do better, read more, and there has to be an emphasis on that, because if I sit here and watch the news and see the way things are unfolding, I need to adapt my mindset to deal with those things. And if it's educating myself more on the constitutional rights of people, then that's what I have to do. If I have to educate myself more on mental stability, because that's another big topic now with, a lot of mental illness out there, dealing with people then. If there's somebody with mental illness who may pose a threat to the police, do they deserve to, get shot or killed, and I guess it depends on what's being done. But if I change my response to that, maybe the outcome will be better because I'm able to identify that a lot quicker, that, what I'm dealing with. I had a guy one time that we went to a call, and he had made a 911 call, and, he's like, my wife was just killed, and, get over here. So we respond, the garage door's open, we go into the garage, and I hear screaming inside, and me and, one of my officers are outside. We were like, holy shit, we can hear him screaming. And he was like, what are you doing? I said, okay, we're going to go inside. We're going to take a look, We opened the door and he's standing there in his underwear, covered in blood with a big sword, like I'm talking Conan the Barbarian type sword. And he's swinging it back and forth. And obviously the guy wasn't in the right mindset. You can see that.
What gave you that idea?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. That was pretty
Could've been a normal
obvious.
Wednesday.
Right. He's covered in blood because he had just got done stabbing himself with the sword, and so he's covered in blood. And, he's like, my wife's right here. My wife's right here. We're like, what do we do? He starts moving towards us. So, instead, could we have shot him? Absolutely. He's moving towards us with the sword. He's a threat. But we immediately identified that there's a mental thing missing. So we backed up a little bit. I reholstered my weapon, took my taser out. My partner kept his gun out just in case that didn't work. And we ended up just tasing him, and I got asked afterwards, it was like, you could have shot him, like, why didn't you just, because we identified right away that this was a mental problem. He didn't mean harm on us. My point being is if you're able to identify that a lot sooner, then you could change your response and have maybe a better outcome. If you don't identify that mental illness out there or whatever the circumstances may be, it could end bad. In this case, it ended fine. We tased him, and my only thing was him falling on that sword, so to speak, no pun intended. And then getting hurt, but everything worked out good, and we didn't have to shoot him. Could we have shot him? Probably we could have gotten away with it and articulated that, the need to defend ourselves from a guy who's got this sword. I don't know what his experience with that sword is.
Was his wife really dead?
There was no wife in the house. He had been divorced for years. It was just him.
Just looking for a buddy, sort of.
Yeah. So, so I guess my point being is that educating yourself and being, in, like I said, the mental illness and some of the other aspects will change your response to some of these things. Now, I think we've seen a whole shift in the way we do police work and the way we do things. I mean, we now have police officers that are like maintaining social distance, even in, interactions where, we're used to like putting our hands on somebody or doing a certain thing. We've had to change our tactics as far as that. So, I mean, now going back, it's going to be just adapting to that and kind of hoping we get back to some normalcy, but I don't think we'll ever get back to.
No, we're just setting the new normal. The old one obviously got worn out, and we're going through that transition.
But think about this. We are a society of seeing each other's faces, reading each other's, seeing a smile, seeing, now behind masks, we can't see that. How are we supposed to operate as a society when we can't shake hands? We can't hug. We can't see each other smile. And I always thought like this whole idea of masks were hard. That's crazy because that's not our society. We need to see each other. You smile at somebody at the store now and they don't know you're smiling. It's like, how do we operate? How do we live in that kind of society where we don't do that? We're not used to that.
Yeah.
It's alien for us when we see Muslim countries on TV and they're all masked. And that back in the day, you look at that and that made you uncomfortable, because we're not that society. We're a society of seeing each other's faces, seeing a smile, seeing a certain, shaking hands, hugging. How do we not do that anymore? Yeah. It's so alien to a lot of us that's like, and there's people like, I don't care about COVID. I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. But, not everybody's doing it. You go into a store. I walk into a store and I forgot my mask and I see everybody like eyeballing me and I'm like, why is everybody staring at me?
Yeah.
I realize I don't have my mask on and I'm like, God, now I'm the asshole because I'm walking around without the mask and that's what we've become, and
I'm the guy that wears the same mask over and over again, keep it in my back pocket, pull it out after the wash kind of deal. I mean, how many people do that?
Right.
It's just, it's getting everybody into the whole position is,
but just something as simple as shaking hands,
yeah.
That's what we do. I mean, that's, we hug each other, we kiss each other, we do all these things that now we're not able to do. I don't know. I think that has a large overall a much worse impact on our society than we think it does, and moving forward, as far as not having that emotional attachment to people.
Well, that's how you show affection. Like, you can tell people all day that you love them, this and the other, but the way they really know that is is the affection part.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing for, the police. How do we see, we can't see their faces anymore. That's, I know we've always been, our agency has always said, we don't want officers hiding, before COVID, we don't want officers hiding their faces. We don't want them. We want them in traditional blue police uniforms. There's a lot of different uniforms that are out there now that the police wear. No, we want our police officers to look like police officers. That's your job. That's what you came to this job wanting to wear. Not polos, not 511 pants. You wear the traditional blue police uniform because you are the police. We want you easily identifiable to the rest of society. We want people looking up to you. Man, that guy's squared away. Look at his uniform. That guy really takes pride in himself. He really, focuses on his physical fitness, his well-being. Is that a guy that I want to mess with? Nope. But I'm going to take the guy who's overweight, shirt's untucked, looks like a bag of shit, shoes not shined, and that's the guy that I'm going to challenge as an offender, because I know I could probably get away with it with that burst, because they don't take pride in themselves.
Valid point. I hear that all the time. Different departments do.
Well, man, thanks for what you do.
Yeah, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, being a first responder behind that. Tell everybody back there, man, we're praying for y'all. We back y'all up all the time, man, and especially out here.
Yeah, in these tumultuous times, it's good to get perspective from somebody who's on the front line protecting us. So thanks for coming down. Thanks
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Morgan, you got a listener story that I think perfectly ties to today, if you'd like to share that with everybody.
Yeah. Dear TNQ, I want to thank you all for your service, not only those who served our great nation in the battlefield, but those behind the scenes who serve a nation of individuals identifying with life's struggles. Your effort brings hope and promise to many. With our nation in turmoil and law enforcement constantly on the forefront of victimization via unacceptable inflammatory rhetoric and falsely labeled a burden to our society, there has never been a more appropriate time to tell the never quit story of the law enforcement community. This community is comprised of relentless individuals who selflessly take an oath to protect the civil liberties of citizens and dedicate their effort and lives safeguarding our cities, states, and nation. These individuals, despite a trending national narrative of hostility, criminalization, scorn, condemnation, and abomination toward them, continue to honor their commitment of service with unwavering professionalism. Their willingness to answer the call regardless of the circumstance or outcome is without obstruction. They do not abandon their fellow man and ungrudgingly shoulder his woes to restore contentment. These outstanding men and women are committed to humanity and without hesitation or discrimination will sacrifice to protect the public interest. They willingly accept the responsibility of making life-altering decisions, knowing they will face extreme critics and scrutiny regardless of the justification. These officers suffer physically and emotionally, yet refuse to be defeated and overcome adversities with great fortitude. Their sole drive is their sworn commitment and desire to serve their fellow man and contribute to a better society. The law enforcement community wakes up every day, straps on the never quit attitude, and goes to work. They do this not for gratitude or acceptance, rather so others may live and flourish in this great nation. I want to personally thank my brothers and sisters for their dedication, determination, and professionalism. Never quit. Signed, Sergeant Joshua Hurdle.
It's awesome.
Thank you for sharing that letter, and I promise you the vast majority of us out here that we mimic those thoughts. So we got you back 100%, Josh. You're absolutely right. And we want to personally thank all the law enforcement and first responders out there for everything they do, have done, and are doing for all of us who live under that blanket of freedom they provide every day. God bless you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If today's message spoke to you, or you think it would speak to someone in your life, in your circle, make sure to share the episode with a friend. Follow us on social media, teamneverquit.com/social. You can stay up to date with everything we've got going on, see what kind of new episodes we have going on. We've got some brand new podcast gear too. Check it out at shop.teamneverquit.com. Sam, thank you again. for coming out. Thank you for your service. See you guys next week.